How significant could a blow like tariffs be to China's economy right now at this early stage of recovery?
Well, it's already going to be a really difficult quarter for exports. We've seen the Korea data showing a drop of about 18% month on month from March to April in terms of Korea's exports. Those are the first to be reported in the region. So I think China will clearly see a meaningful decline. We'll get those numbers later this week. Tariffs would only compound those difficulties. So while we're not expecting a further increase in tariffs, it's certainly going to be a very challenging export backdrop just as China's domestic economy starts to recover.
Why aren't you expecting further tariffs? Do you think it's just a step the U.S. can't afford to take?
I think, as you noted, I think it'd be damaging for the U.S. economy at this point. Clearly, we're in a deep recession right now. April, May, probably going to be the worst point for economic activity in the U.S. Additional tariffs would just pile on to the challenges that the economy is facing. So while obviously we can't rule that out, given the recent rhetoric, we already have pretty high tariff levels for a lot of Chinese goods into the U.S. And the U.S. is trying to implement the phase one trade agreement, which would have China buying a significant amount of U.S. goods. So piling on potentially more tariffs would call that into question. I think U.S. policymakers will be focused on making sure those Chinese purchases happen more or less on schedule.
Okay, fair enough. Andrew, good morning. Tanveer also joining into this discussion. What does the comeback of the tariff talk mean for China at a time when they're seeing exports slump, and also at a time when the main leg of the economy, which is more than 50% of the economy deriving its comfort from consumption, has not picked up in the way that was anticipated? What does China do next?
Well, I think the next phase is services. We've seen, I think, a pretty encouraging recovery on the industrial side. The initial concern way back in February was huge supply chain problems, given the extent to which Chinese companies had to shut down in February, concerns that that could ripple across the region and the world. Now you've seen a substantial pickup in industrial activity. Those supply side problems seem to have been resolved to some degree. The question, as I mentioned, is really demand. Is there going to be external demand, export demand for Chinese goods over the next few months, given that the rest of the world is in a severe recession? Where China can still focus is on getting the services side and the consumption side of the economy back. There's still restrictions in some areas for fear of having a second wave of the virus, which is understandable. But we're seeing signs that activity there, things like local hotel usage, transportation, consumption in some sectors is coming back, but it's just coming back from lower levels and has further to go. But we think we'll see further improvement in those sectors over the next 2 or 3 months.